Create your world. Were never told. You had so much hope for a brighter day.
Video music box. I used to run home and see the chair, put it on and say, wow, this man impacted the world, he impacted my life, and I want to give Rich flowers while he's alive. Ralph, from me in the world, from me and Eli in the world, this is for you, brother, and I got one else coming for you. I hope it fits. It's a Ralph McDaniel's custom-made belt buckle. Woo! Wow, let's do it. Let's do it, man. We love you. We want to give you flowers. Keep doing what you do. I love you. Y'all support video music boxes. I do, and the world does. Peace.
It's that hip-hop's influence. Now, when you think about hip-hop and the elements of hip-hop, in the very beginning of hip-hop was about giving voice to voices. And out of poverty and nothingness, the global billion-dollar industry was created and has influenced our society. What is not discussed enough is hip-hop as a tool for social change. And so I'm really thankful that we have an opportunity to have this conversation. Because when you think about it, hip-hop is all about social change. Let's look at it. We had, from the very beginning, we had the first conscious kind of hip-hop song by the Message by Grandmaster Melly Mel. You had KRS-One, Sound of the Police, Fight the Power, Public Enemy. It's Like That by Run DMC, even F the Police by NWA, and of course, Nas, I Know I Can. So, you think about those artists who contributed to moving, and including education as part of their platform, but often we don't hear enough of that music in the mainstream. And then we don't hear about the other things that are just as hip-hop, like the movements, like Zulu Nation. We talk about the fifth element, it was about knowledge, right? The 5% Nation of what they did, the Nation of Islam, how they raised consciousness, and it all sparked activism and systemic change. So I think what I want to do is really go into a quote that Busta Rhymes, it really hit me. And I think that would serve as a great context for our conversation. He says, hip-hop is the streets. Hip-hop is a couple of elements that it comes from back in the days. That feel of music with urgency that speaks to you. It speaks to your livelihood, and it is not compromised. It's blunt, it's raw, it's straight off the streets. And so the question becomes, how can we take this music that is straight off the streets, that's raw, and use it as a transformational tool, to impact some of the social issues within our community? And I'd like to start with my brother from Hip Hop Boulevard, Al Pizarro, who is just doing some really great things in terms of even taking care of artists themselves.
Yeah, I think that you have to remember that hip-hop is just a bunch of people. We're all people. And the fact that we were able to communicate with our music, our dance, graffiti, and DJing was a thing that at that time was needed, because back in the 70s, it was gang infested, a lot of poverty, we were really out there trying to search for something that just took us away from all the misery and stuff we were going through, and that, gave birth to hip hop. And with that just tells everybody that from the very beginning, it was a conscious effort to create a change in a culture that was already being, hurt and just suffering from different elements that were around them. And look at where we are now, 50 years later, and there's always going to be a battle. But the battle is right in front of us and all over the world, and now we're stepping up to the plate.
But could you speak to, speaking of that battle, could you speak to some of your work and what you're currently doing to make sure that our hip hop artists, we heard in other panels, some of them, they've been robbed, died broke, they lack medical care, things of that nature. Could you raise that work up in terms of what you're doing?
Look, I'm sick and tired of just seeing GoFundMe for these pioneers that have created an avenue of music that transcends. And I'm sick and tired of seeing these guys that are just trying to make it when they did so much before. And who stepped up to the plate? Nobody. So we step up to the plate. Everybody, no one steps up. So I talk to these individuals. I call them out. I check on them and I say, what's going on? I try to help them reinvent themselves. Maybe you got to go to the studio. Why don't you just say your show? Let's put you on. Nobody's paying me the money I used to make. Nobody's doing to help me out. This is the problem. This is the problem that we have existing right now. And the division in hip-hop that's causing this problem, because the pioneers and the younger generation should be together, united. It shouldn't be divided. Hip-hop was always about unification, not about division. So I talk to these individuals. I constantly have them in different showcases on whatever I can do for them and my company to be able to uplift them, to empower them, to encourage them, to give them new opportunities. That's what hip-hop was going to do.
Thank you. And that's a great segue to the next episode. To Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr. Now you're doing this thing called Hip Hop Cause, right? And I know that there's a lot of now movement in terms of like a lot of politicians who either influenced by hip hop or hip hop artists themselves that are running for elected office. How can we be more involved with the laws and policies that impact hip hop culture?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's definitely an honor to be on this panel. Man, the city of Paradise, Grave, Explain is amazing. Yeah, give it up for Paradise. Hip Hop Caucus actually turns 20 years next year. I was one of the architects from the Vote or Die campaign and back with Hip Hop Summits back in the day. But to kind of follow up on the last piece about policy, yes, hip hop was 100% started on the boulevard, on the corner. But also, hip hop was 100% started by white supremacy. And so, literally, the Bronx Causeway that was built through the Bronx, started by Robert Moses, and put that highway through the Bronx, literally creating redlining, literally creating poverty, literally looking at that Bronx at that time as a sacrifice zone. So literally 3 years before hip hop, it was literally a mentality that those black and brown people in the Bronx weren't worth anything. And it was those young people at that time who used their cultural expression to shape their political experience to say something is wrong. That something is wrong when my mom and my dad don't have, their rent or their mortgage. Something is wrong when they have their food. Something is wrong. So I just want to make sure and say that, because within 50 years, the one thing that has not shifted is white supremacy. So while hip hop has grown 50 years, so has white supremacy. And so I just want to make sure and say that the one difference, though, is that while we're now still dealing with economic justice, racial injustice, we're dealing with climate justice, we're dealing with injustice within our communities. The one thing we got to have this conversation regarding policy is that has hip hop now become more in line with white supremacy than the streets? And so I think the thing here with the policy is that we got to know either you shape policy or policy shapes you. And so for too long, we have allowed for that. So we have to now, I think we need to think outside the box about caucus, for instance, like, or all the groups up here, for example. We have to utilize our ability to audience build. And one thing, recognize that the great thing about hip hop is that even though we have sometimes strayed and forgotten about black liberation, and forgotten about our people, and forgotten about what we gotta do, the great thing about this is that our culture is global. And so we can connect from all around the globe. And so the one thing that we must do now in hip hop, 50 years moving forward, is recognize that our communities are still suffering, they're still sacrifice zones, they're still in trouble, and how can we use our art, our fashion, our music, our poetry, everything about us to free our people from oppression.
You know, I agree with you 200%. And in our discussions, we're talking and raising kids to understand the power of a voting block. In that if your community is saying we need this, numbers change, and you become a voting block. And the more people that can register to vote to show that voting block, politicians will pay attention. Because now they know what your agenda is. I think historically, what we have not said is this, we're not going to do this unless you do this. And we need to go back to that. I mean, I watched my parents move a highway because they came to our house and said eminent domain, and my father said absolutely not. And we created a voting block and the highway was moved 2 blocks over. So this is some of the stuff that we need to do. And the last thing is, for all you people that love to talk and love to go to Congress and lobby. Go to Albany and lobby. Your voice can be heard.
You know, that's just an important point that you make.
I thank you, universe, for all the goodness you're bringing my way. I receive it, I accept it, and I thank you for it. And so it is.
Absolutely, and what I love to tell the kids is actions speak louder than words. I don't want to hear what you want to do. I want to see what you want to do.
What kind of conversations as a principal do you have with young people about, one, hip hop in general, and two, about them really understanding their role in society and what they can do to create change? And I'm sorry, Dr. Lopez.
So I'm no longer a principal, but I remain the founder of Mount Hope Academy, and the work still continues even if I'm not in school. I want to acknowledge everyone's point about the reason why hip hop was so important and still so important in our community. It literally captured our struggle, not just through words, but through imagery. Right? It was nothing like being able to see ourselves, and that's why Video Music Box was so important, because we didn't get to see our stories on mainstream, like MTV wasn't playing, right? And so growing up, especially like 70s, 80s when crack took over, we were dealing with gangs, we were dealing with AIDS, all of these things, it did unite us because our struggle was real. Poverty, healthcare, economics, everything. It was our survival. It told
Do
our
you think it
story.
still unites us today?
I'm gonna say it depends, right? It depends. It depends on if you're in the club that unites us. But is it telling the story and the fabric of what's happening today in our community, right? When you think about the riots that happened in LA, NWA was telling us late 80s, F the police, because they was explaining to us what was happening. So when we saw what happened to Rodney King, we understood the anger because we already understood their frustration. Today, hip-hop has become so commodified beyond us. Our stories are not being told, right? There's times that I'm so angry at the fact that we don't have a song like Self-Destruction. We don't have, like, the We Are the World, and we don't have those things. I would always tell my scholars, this is what we do, but it's not as popular, and our young people aren't singing those songs, right? Like, you don't hear our young people doing that. And they're the ones who are going to change the future. When I was a kid, we were all singing those songs. It was intergenerational. But unfortunately, what's happening today is, and I'm only speaking from my experience as someone who's in education, right? What I'm saying today is, I would always draw on telling my scholars about my experience and explaining to them how hip-hop formed my life, right? It kept me off of the streets, right? Like, it did all of those things to help us. But today, it's important for us to continue those conversations. It's important for us to bridge the gap so that we can continue having conversations so that our children are feeling a sense of liberation. Because here's the thing, books are being banned, right? Every single day. Curriculum is changing. But just like everything else, because the people we come from a time and a place that we use something else to revolutionize what we're going through. So for us, hip-hop is that.
Let me just, before we talk about, I want to just pull, so, as you have done hip hop, right? And it's a platform for us to give, I think, it's a platform that we can use to do the very things that Dr. Lopez was talking about. What role do you see being, managing director owning these platforms? How can we make sure that, there is a space and a place for conscious raising, thought-provoking conversations, and how can we get the algorithms to pay attention to that, because it seems like the attention is placed on things that are not constructive.
Well, first, thank you to Rock McDaniels and Video Music Box, of course. It's ownership. Ownership. I think about when I was a kid, and my mom would tell me that, it's not, you don't want to be the end product. You don't want to be the result. You want to be the owner of the means of production. If you don't own it, you're just the product. And what I believe has happened with hip hop, with that argument that, hey, we don't own hip hop for the last 50 years, it got away from us, is, well, look, what are we going to do going forward? And that's the reason why I think hip hop is important, because it does give the entire culture, the entire industry, the ability to have ownership. Whether it's ownership of their IP, adding, having a Mr. Cheeks hip hop is a lot different than having a Mr. Cheeks.com, right? Instead of having social media throttle your fan base, having your own platform, again, just using Mr. Cheeks as an example, MrCheeks.com, and all of his fans coming to a centralized place and him streaming, then he'll know where that is going. He'll know where that is going. But at a larger level, for the entire culture, it's about ownership as well. When I look at hip hop, I look at it as a tool to give each person in this audience, in our community, an opportunity to actually reclaim this birthright and have an ownership stake in hip hop. And that's like the most important thing. If we don't take control and take ownership of hip hop going into the future, right? Because everything is going online. We're going to do, we're transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3, but whatever you call it, it can be Web 5. We're spending most of our time online and not in the real world with the virtual world. So hip hop is going to end up there. If we don't own it, then we will never own it. And that's what I see. I think it's about ownership. We have to take control of hip hop, and that's what hip hop is doing.
Hi, I'm Zaria, the owner of Bourgeois Essentials, and today we have our satin line pillowcases, our satin hoodies, and we specialize in all things luxury but with a twist, and we want everybody to have their own essentials. You can find us at bourgeoisessentials.com, or you can find us on Instagram, Snapchat, or TikTok at Bourgeois Essentials as well. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm Kiki Noir, and I have a vegan food business called Noir Vegan. Now, what we have is just all vegan food. We have, today, we have barbecue ribs, we have rasta pasta, we have quinoa with curry, we have quinoa with peas, we have mac and cheese, we have empanadas, we have a whole lot of things, everything vegan. So what we do here is we make traditional foods, like basically everything that you used to eating, like throughout your family, soul food, Jamaican food, and we make it vegan. So it's a healthier lifestyle. So where you can find me at on Instagram is noir.vegan. It's gonna have my logo, my green logo, and that will be me. And you can follow me. I go all around the Bronx, all around Manhattan, all around Brooklyn. I go anywhere to Vin. I also do home deliveries. So make sure y'all check me out and keep me in mind when y'all want a good, healthy meal. Oh yeah, and it's vegan, so yeah, come check me out.
We have a piece of everyone. If there's anybody you want to see, let us know at Las Caritas Pins Instagram, and we'll put up our next flag. So we have all of our flags, we have all of our zodiacs, we have our constellations, and we have our names. And again, we're representing everyone. We have our affirmation ladies here. We have a couple of earrings. Yes, look at those. Beautiful, gorgeous. We have our rep your boroughs. So we have the Bronx. We have New York City. We have Brooklyn. We have Queens. Hi guys, it's me. My name is Michelle. I am the owner of Las Caritas Pins, which is the little faces in Spanish. And give us a follow at lascaritaspins.com. And you can find us on Instagram at Las Caritas Pins.